Ant-Man Quantumania is set to drastically reshape the modern landscape in the MCU, seeing the first live-action iteration of not only Kang the Conqueror, but Modoc as well. One of the most anticipated villainous debuts within the past several years, Modoc, the mutated body of George Tarleton, has terrorized the Avengers, aiding the advanced idea mechanics and pioneering some of the most dangerous technology in the Marvel Comics throughout his tenure as a villain. Now, with his debut in Ant-Man 3 bringing him to the big screen, we are left to sift through the various rumors, theories, and ideas regarding how he will be adapted, and how he will connect to what the MCU has already set in motion. So, stick with us today, watchers of the Marvel Multiverse, and let's assess what we know about Modoc as well as his debut, as well as cover a few prevalent fan theories that are worth mentioning. First, let's discuss some of the rumored changes that the MCU Modoc is allegedly making to the iconic character in order to provide a much more seamless transition between his somewhat outlandish comic appearance and his on-screen live-action counterpart. Perhaps the most persistent rumor is that he will take a much more mechanical appearance, foregoing the mutated body and head in favor of being a much more practical machine, which appears to be confirmed by many of the Ant-Man trailers. What we don't know about Modoc yet is whether or not this is a fully mechanical artificial intelligence program like the likes of Ultron or Vision, or if it is simply a housing unit for a grotesquely mutated head that more closely resembles his iconic comic book counterpart, and the machine might be more of a shell. In the comics, Modoc uses a device known as the Doomsday Chair, which acts as not only an armada of weaponry, tools, and gadgets, but he also uses it as a life support system that keeps his vitals functioning. This mechanical appearance might be a modern adaptation of the Doomsday Chair, becoming more of a Doomsday suit which is fully encased and protects his body from the outside world. But this would still mean that there is a deformed body behind this shell. If Modoc does take a more comic accurate approach, seeing this be used as a mask of sorts, then there are a few different interesting theories as to who might be behind this helmet. One of the most popular theories is that Modoc won't actually be a direct adaptation of George Tarleton, but might actually be a character we've seen before in the Ant-Man franchise. Recently, Evangeline Lilly, the actress behind Hope Van Dyne's Wasp, tagged fellow Ant-Man alum Corey Stoll in a post regarding the third installment, hinting that he might be back once again, now this time much different. Corey Stoll, who played Darren Cross, was quite notably killed off at the end of Ant-Man's first solo film, all the way back in 2015, leaving us to wonder why and how he might be involved in this next project. Given the manner of his death, however, it seems possible that he might be the MCU's iteration of Modoc. Scott Lang was able to damage the Yellow Jacket suit from the inside out and exploit going subatomic in order to shrink Cross out of existence. But upon rewatching this death scene, there are a few curious details to take note of. First, he doesn't shrink all at once, and his arms appear to not only shrink before the rest of his body, but they appear to be crushed by the shrinking suit. Upon closer examination, Cross's death seems to be incredibly grotesque, as his suit shrinks around him without his body also shrinking in turn. This means that it's possible for various parts of his body to be disproportionate to the other, with his arms being much smaller and more frail than something like his head, which might have been left more intact than the rest of his body. If he was so grossly deformed by this transformation, then it might give a plausible explanation for how Marvel and Disney are able to adapt such a bizarre physical appearance to the big screen, while having it make sense and fit within the modern logic of the established MCU. It would also give Ant-Man a much more personal connection to one of the villains in this next upcoming movie, as Kang the Conqueror as of now has no personal vendetta against Scott Lang that we know of, and he only hates the Avengers because they stand in the way of his conquests. We also know that Modoc will act as an advisor of sorts to Kang, which might mean a few different things. While Kang is from the future, he does not travel exclusively back in time to conquer just his timeline, but he actively leaps between realities, meaning that there is only one Kang on Earth 616, and the likelihood of this being Kang 616 in the Ant-Man film is incredibly slim. If this is the case, then Modoc could be from Kang's reality. It makes more sense if his guide is native to his own universe, and is able to inform Kang of the various different obstacles he might face during his time on Earth 616. We already saw how vastly different Earth 838 was from 616, and specifically, we saw a vastly different roster of superheroes and defenders that might stand to challenge Kang. On Earth 838, the Fantastic Four, mutants, Inhumans, and Avengers all exists, and it makes sense that that Kang might need to know which heroes are present in each respective universe so that he can adequately prepare his attacks and plan. For these reasons, it makes sense that Modoc is from Earth 616 and partners with Kang upon his arrival as a sort of guide. It's also important to note that AIM already exists in the MCU, and its operatives were formerly led by Aldrich Killian, and we can confirm that the remnants of AIM still exist in modern day. During the events of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which takes place after the events of Endgame, we can see one of the Extremis test subjects preparing for a cage match, proving that not all of the AIM operatives or subjects were eliminated or arrested. With the death of Killian, however, it stands to reason that many of them would need new employment or leadership, and given how Cross no longer works for Pym Enterprises, it makes sense that leadership over the remnants of AIM might be Cross's next logical step. If Darren Cross survived his attack and was able to construct the MCU's iteration of the Doomsday Chair, then he might have used the last 10 years to find new purpose, and more importantly, new employment. This might lead him to the remnants of AIM, which had been all but crippled by Tony Stark shortly after the Battle of New York, and the two might have come to an agreement, resulting in this new version of Modoc leading an underground group of renegade scientists as they continue their work under Cross's new leadership, which was forged by his years of experience under Hank Pym. It also leaves us to wonder what exactly will lead Kang to AIM in the first place, or perhaps the simplest answer is their highly advanced arsenal of technology. Kang spends his time traversing and conquering different universes, collecting various weapons and gadgets from each timeline he visits in order to constantly grow his arsenal, and much of this tech comes from the Baxter Foundation, seeing as he is the distant descendant of Reed Richards. In the MCU 616, however, Reed Richards is yet to be a major player as of right now, neither is the Baxter Building or the Fantastic Four. Additionally, Tony Stark is dead and is no longer producing more armaments, and Wakanda is known for its elusive nature and inability to be invaded. While Kang could theoretically take advantage of any of these corners of the MCU, AIM might be the most readily available and easiest to infiltrate. While on the surface it makes sense that Kang would know about each of these potential targets given the fact that he is from the future, it's important to note that we don't know which future this Kang is from, or how his timeline differs from what we know of Earth 616. It's quite possible that he comes to this timeline in search of Reed Richards, only to be forced to adapt. If his timeline either doesn't have or has never discovered Wakanda, then it makes sense that he wouldn't know about their technology, but AIM might be a familiar entity to this Kang. But anyway, my friends, what do you think of this hypothetical scenario? How do you think Modoc will be adapted, and do you think he will be the fully mechanical or just a mechanical housing unit? Or do you believe the George Tarleton identity will be carried over into the MCU? As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching the channel. Hit that subscribe button to assemble and join our team, and have a great day.